I just want to welcome you this evening, and this is our first period, the question and answer period. So one of the things I want to report is some good news, which is that I went to a food summit at Stanford Medical School 2 weeks ago. Has anyone here heard of the food summit? Food as medicine. Every year the physicians and the medical students actually put on a food summit where they're looking at all the issues around food and having access to healthy food. So this was Food Summit number 4, which is really interesting. And what I learned is that there is a new group of physicians teaching at the hospital at Stanford, so that Dr. Schad, S-H-A-D, is teaching the residents and the medical students about how to incorporate nutrition into their medical practice and actually talking about it, which is phenomenal. So I'm just letting you know the good news, the quantum leaps that are happening around that. And there's also Jessie Kuhl has just expanded her delivery of organic food to Stanford Hospital. So she's actually expanding that and getting the hospital patients healthy food. And another one is that yesterday there was a major breakthrough. Rebecca Katz, who's a integrative nutritionist for oncologists, was there with the gentleman from UCSF who taught the medical students about nutrition in the use of cancer treatments at Stanford. So that was like a milestone. So I'm meeting with a lot of these people this weekend, and next weekend I'll be reporting next time what I find out. I'm going to look it up for you. I don't have it right here with me because she it was, excuse me?
Shaz, the C-H-A-Z, or the person at Stanford? Or?
This is Schad, Dr. Schad, S-H-A-D is the one at Stanford. And then the one at UCSF is the head of integrative oncology at UCSF. You know who he is. Yeah, and he was there yesterday. Yeah. So he was speaking to the whole Stanford faculty and staff, and yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is your Q&A period. I'd like to find out who has a question that we can discuss. Anybody have anything? Yes. Please hold the mic.
I was told that I had a high PSA, which is prostate-specific antibodies. I've been taking testosterone through pellets inserted in my side for about a year, and with the high levels of PSA, I'm told I need to have a what's it called? You stick a needle in, biopsy, and I'm wondering what to expect from that.
My first advice would be to be skeptical about the predictability and predictive value of the PSA test. There are a lot of artifactual things that happen with it where risk can go up and the PSA will go down and vice versa. One example of that is the influence of estrogen. So when you take testosterone, your body can activate an enzyme called aromatase to convert it into estradiol. And estradiol can raise PSA and also sex hormone binding globulin, which will bind to your testosterone and shift the testosterone to estradiol ratio from the anabolic and androgenic dominant mode into an estrogen dominant mode, which in my opinion is a risk factor, a more significant risk factor for prostate problems and BPH and prostate cancer than the PSA is in and of itself. So if you've been taking testosterone and you have not been measuring your estradiol with your testosterone when you're tracking it, you have no idea, and your doctor has no idea, whether you're just converting your testosterone into estradiol. And so that would be the first thing that I would suggest that you do is track your estradiol to see if it's a source of your problem.
Okay, thank you. And someone else raised their hand here too, or was that okay?
Do you know the number that was it 4 or is it 20 or? 10. Yeah. I think watchful waiting is something to seriously consider. It's the change in the value over time that would be worrisome. If it's stable there, say again? Oh, yeah. PSA is not specific to the women. I think women can get measured for that. It's kind of difficult to find their prostate, but.
Okay.
The other thing that I would do if I were you would be to research on the internet people who point out the hazards of biopsies.
That's a really good idea. I also want to remind you all to please turn off your cell phones at this time. I saw quite a few of you on it. The EMFs are really high in this room, so if we keep our phones on, we're really being magnified. The exposure is pretty significant. So let's see. So other upper corner, okay.
I wonder if anybody has had good or bad experiences with prolotherapy, in particular of the knee.
Okay. Anybody had any experiences they can comment on? There you go. Okay. This really. Okay.
Yeah, prolotherapy. I've never had it done, and I don't know anybody any of my clients who've directly had it done, but I've had several colleagues who've done it, and the results are very helpful and promising. But it's extremely painful, and it's long-term painful. In other words, you get a prolol injection, and you can have discomfort for certainly weeks, and possibly a month to 2 months. So it's not as elegant or as graceful as prolozone therapy or just simple ozone therapy, which you have, a few hours of pain and you recover faster. And so that's what I would suggest as a more economical and more friendly, kinder and gentler way of doing it, reconstructing a knee.
Anybody else? Okay, other questions that people have want to discuss? Okay. Should we just start then, if there's no more questions with Dr. Husband, since I know she's not here?
Last week I was looking at stories on the internet and anecdotes and checking out a few movies on reversing Alzheimer's disease, and there was a very interesting report that I ran across of a woman who had severe cognitive impairment and all kinds of immune system problems that she was experiencing, and had been to several doctors who had run all kinds of tests on her and said, we can't find anything wrong. And she reported in this, dialogue that at various times during this episode, she would report to these doctors that she had a low body temperature to the tune of 93 degrees Fahrenheit, when 95 is, severely life-threatening and challenging. And she'd have a 93-degree body temperature, and these medical professionals weren't reacting to that piece of information. So I realized, that there's a lot of information in this group that we get from hearing people speak on different subjects that isn't out there in the universe. This woman went for almost 2 years with this problem, and finally got a doctor to prescribe thyroid hormone, and within 3 weeks, her suicidal depression was gone completely, and her cognitive difficulties had resolved. And that's just such a simple thing. And I think pretty much everybody in this group has been exposed to this information. And so I just was contemplating that there's some kind of, ethical issue, responsibility, obligation that people with information have, but tempered by the idea of whether or not it's going to be received by the person who might need it. So there's a lot of people out there who are sick, and you can tell them exactly what they need to do, and they will absolutely not do it. And so that's, the wisdom to know when your advice isn't important and isn't going to be received properly, but that, the degree to which that we can spread this kind of information would be very useful. And that also came up about, I think, 3 weeks ago. Phil Jacklin gave me a copy of the Dr. Levy's video series on vitamin C, intravenous vitamin C, for the treatment of all kinds of infectious diseases, especially viral diseases. And it's just truly amazing how diseases like influenza and CMV and hepatitis C respond to intravenous vitamin C, and even oral vitamin C and liposomal vitamin C. And so he gave this talk in New Zealand where there was a huge controversy, very politically important, that resulted in a new law being passed where 60 Minutes of New Zealand did 2 stories on a man who was dying of swine fever and was in a coma and full life support. And, the doctor said he's going to die, we need to disconnect him. And his family said, no, you haven't tried vitamin C yet. And they said, we won't do that. And so but the family forced them to do it because there was nothing else to be done, and there's an obligation. So the hospital reluctantly agreed to do it and gave him 25 grams for like 2 days in a row, 25 grams the first day and I think 50 the second day. And his lungs cleared up. So the x-ray showed that you could actually now see his lungs. And so the infection that was taking place had resolved to that point. He was still unconscious and on life support. And then the hospital decided to stop the therapy because he was no longer a treatment of last resort, because he was recovering. Then it wasn't justified to use this treatment of last resort, and stop treating him, and he crashed again. And they did not connect the stopping of the vitamin C to him crashing the second time, because the vitamin C couldn't have been responsible for his recovery. Okay? So this is the kind of universe we're in. Okay? Now, 60 Minutes did a story exposing it and made the guy who's the head of the hospital look like an idiot, or the government agent, and they did a follow-up study, and in New Zealand, the New Zealand government actually passed a law saying that, number one, vitamin C, intravenous vitamin C, is now a state-approved medication. Okay, so, and they also passed ethical provisions saying that doctors couldn't deny an inexpensive, potentially life-saving therapy if it was chosen. They couldn't deny it, and that they couldn't also use that the restrictions on expense being an issue couldn't be applied to vitamin C. So now we have this vitamin C island in the world where it's not only available, that there's this legal compulsion to use it in these circumstances. And because New Zealand and Australia are strongly connected to Canada and the US in terms of FDA policy that's flowing from the US to Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, I'm thinking that Dr. Levy is right, that it'll now reverse and go the other direction if they start to see this kind of therapy taking place in New Zealand under hospital observation, where it gets reported in journals, that the vitamin C therapy will flow back into the United States. So I'd like to make you aware of this option, and to suggest that if you know anybody who's in this really, really serious circumstance where they can't get institutional support for it, to consider medical tourism to New Zealand.
Great, thank you so much. And I want to actually begin now with the speaker. We're going to have, do you want to just say that? Oh, you need to. Yeah.
Pass this out. Let you Yeah, okay. I passed this out last month. This is the information on Levy and how to use the vitamin C. So I've got 8 or 10 copies left. I'll put them here if anybody wants them. And so thanks, Steve, for promoting it. Also, we did a directory. We did a directory of people in the Bay Area who do the IV-C treatment by drip, the IV drip treatment. And I don't have that, but if you want it, contact me at the break, and I'll send you an email with that directory. It's about 10 wonderful doctors that we didn't even know about in the Bay Area who do this. So thanks, Christine.
Yes.
I would like to say something to the group. 6 years ago, I went into Novato Hospital to have a complete knee replacement, titanium knee, and I asked my surgeon if there was any chance I could have a vitamin C drip. He said, Pam, what is that? I never heard of that. So I explained to him, and I said, you can put some bees in if you want, but you need to talk to the doctor up above on the 3rd floor who actually compounds the supplements. I think he should let you do it. So he got back to me the next day, and he said, well, Pam, you got your wish. We're going to give you a 12-hour vitamin C drip before and after surgery. So the next day he came in my room and he took the bandage off and he said, Pam, your knee was so bad, it was so eaten up with the rheumatoid arthritis, it was pitiful. He said, I saw it, it was big as a football. I can't believe what I'm seeing now. It's not as red and the inflammation is down. He says, I wonder what did that? And I said, don't you think it could be the vitamin C? So I got my wishes, but he did tell me, if you're going to bring your supplements, hide them in the drawer, just in case. But he allowed me to do it. Thank you.